This presentation is about the website instituteforhumancontinuity.org, or IHC. If you have been taken in by this website and you haven't discovered its little secret yet, stay tuned and we'll get to that in a minute. But let me first say that this is probably one of the best put together websites I've ever seen from a design perspective. The site is basically telling people that they are a group of scientists and government officials and the like who have been studying the 2012 doomsday phenomena since 1978 when they set up this foundation. And in 2009 they decided to go public to offer a solution to save humanity from 2012 because they say that their scientists have determined that there is a 94% chance that December 21st, 2012 will bring doomsday on planet Earth and for all of humanity. They say that they have several space cities and floating cities and underground cities in the works that will be ready by 2012, and they want people to give them their email addresses to enter them into a lottery for a chance to survive 2012. They show us pictures of respectable scientists with impressive resumes, which are to assure us that all this 2012 business is quite real, and we are in fact, all scientifically speaking, doomed. I was asked by someone who had seen my video 2012 Debunked if I would look into this organization. I took up the challenge and I found some very interesting things. But before we get to the big ones, let's check out some of the finer details. The first thing that caught my attention was the IHC staff page. These faces seem to say, look everyone, 2012 is something that actual scientists are worried about, and here is a respectable crew trying to save the world. But while reading about the executive director, Dr. Edmund Primo, I caught something that maybe a lot of people may have missed. What it says is this: Edmund is a geophysicist and a systems engineer by training. Dr. Primo is perfectly suited to oversee the IHC breadth of projects. It says that he did his doctoral thesis on galactic alignment's effects on crustal movements, and this apparently first thrust him into the international spotlight. Okay, well, I can give a pass to the fact that I can't find any reference of a Dr. Edmund Primo online, even though it says he was thrust into the international spotlight. I'm even able to overlook the fact that both his name, Dr. Primo, and his face seem like something out of a B sci-fi movie. But what I can't overlook is this. It says he did his doctoral thesis on galactic alignment's effects on the crustal movements. And keep in mind, he is supposed to be a geophysicist. At first glance, this alone gives a lot of credibility to the whole concept of 2012 and galactic alignment. The problem here is, as I detailed in the 2012 Debunked video, is that the so-called galactic alignment that occurs on December 21st, 2012, or really any time within a 50-year window of that date, is a visual phenomena only from the Earth's perspective, which is caused by the roughly 26,000 year cycle of precession of the equinoxes, or a wobble of the Earth, which changes our perspective of the stars, not our actual relation to galactic center or to any other star. To put it simply, the Earth is in no way actually lining up with galactic center on that day. It's only the tilt of the Earth that is changing. If you were viewing this from anywhere else in the universe, absolutely nothing would be different than any other solstice. Therefore, there would be no scientific reason to expect crustal changes or magnetic changes or any other change from a scientific perspective. So, what makes this interesting is that here and in several other places, this website is saying that it's basically a scientific fact that this 2012 galactic alignment will have all kinds of physical effects on the crust and on the core of the Earth, but it's a logical impossibility. And if any of you out there are saying, but wait, maybe they're talking about the actual entire solar system crossing the physical galactic plane, then I would say to you that according to the journal Nature, this event happened 3 million years ago, and we are moving away from galactic center, and we won't be due to cross for another 30 million years. Simply put, we are further away from galactic center now than we were even in the days of the Mayans. But it doesn't really matter because the website makes it clear in many places that the alignment it's talking about is the one that is based on the 26,000 year cycle that is simply a visual phenomenon. And even more embarrassing, and quite frankly very deceptive, is their presentation on Planet X, where they say that they have not only found Planet X, but have tracked its potential orbit to within a few possibilities, which they present in the form of a slide bar page, which the user can presumably see the possible outcomes according to their scientific research, of course. Again, I refer you to 2012 Debunked because the Planet X story has holes so big that you could drive a dump truck through it. But for now I want to concentrate on this website, and I will get to their secret in a moment, but I want to first dig a little deeper because I am convinced that there is much more to this than meets the eye. An alert individual should draw immediate parallels with the IHC and another group, which is the so-called Zeitgeist movement, which is something like an activist spin-off of the thoroughly refuted movie Zeitgeist. See the description section for details on the reputations. Both sites promise action to save the world from various events or people, but they're not just similar, they're very similar. For example, IHC promises it's building floating cities that it calls hydropolises, where the Venus Project, which is partnered with the Zeitgeist movement, offers floating cities called ecopolises. The parallels don't stop there. And don't get me wrong, these are great ideas on the surface, but as I said, I think that there is much more going on here. Like the Zeitgeist movement website, the IHC website also primarily collects email addresses and personal information on those that sign up, but there is another deeper connection that I want to go to before I reveal the IHC's secret, because I think it speaks volumes about the real nature of both of these movements and the 2012 phenomena as a whole. The general connection is that of theosophy. As I detailed in my video Zeitgeist Addendum is NWO Propaganda, Zeitgeist Addendum appears to preach theosophy while preparing us for a new system of government, one in which we will believe the NWO system has been defeated by an outside force. The connection here is much more subtle, but vitally important to the coming system. On the IHC website, in a section called Cultural and Historical Analysis, there is a subsection called Comparative Religion, arguably another parallel with Zeitgeist, but I digress. There are 3 subsections. The first one basically tells us to pay no attention to the prophecies of the Bible because they are far too vague. I deal with this also in the 2012 Debunked video. But most interesting is the second category, called Eastern Gods of Destruction. In this section, the IHC makes sure to say the following: the Buddhist religion manifests an end-of-days prophecy in the coming of Maitreya, the future Buddha. Maitreya's appearance is predicted to coincide with the lowering of the world's oceans and is associated with the transformative consciousness whereby the current Buddhist teachings, the Dharma, are forgotten. So, after telling us to pay no attention to the biblical prophecies, they tell us to pay extra close attention to the prophecies of Maitreya. Now I want to show you a recent TV commercial by a group called Share International, which is founded by a man named Benjamin Krim, who has for years claimed that he is the spokesperson of the coming Maitreya. This is the view of the Theosophist Lucis Trust and the United Nations, of which the Lucis Trust enjoys a consultative status. This commercial has seen a lot of airtime, including the inauguration coverage, Fox News with Anderson Cooper, Rush Limbaugh, and I'm sure many others that I'm not aware of. Please pay close attention to what this commercial is saying.
If the Christ or Buddha returned today, would you recognize him? The one awaited by all major religions has come when we least expected it. He is ready to emerge openly very soon. Look for a bright star shining in the sky night and day as a sign of his public emergence.
Very interesting. It seems the United Nations and the Zeitgeist movement and whoever is behind this website may try to be doing exactly as Alice Bailey, former head of the Lucis Trust, wrote about in her book The Externalization of the Hierarchy, which was to indoctrinate those that were awake into the new global religion, or at least prepare them to react a particular way to future events that will begin its implementation. So I will now tell you the Institute for Human Continuity's little secret, because it's important to understanding the rest of this story. I did a Who Is search on the website and found that it was bought and owned and maintained by Sony Pictures, who has the blockbuster movie 2012 coming out in November of 2009. Interestingly, a few weeks ago, Sony Pictures announced that they were pushing back the release date for 2012 almost a whole year. That's right, a whole year. And if you look at the trailer of the movie, and you understand a few concepts that I'm about to tell you, you might understand why they did this. But first I want you to notice this explains a lot of the other things that are happening on that website, and why people look like B-movie actors, and why there's no record of any of their groundbreaking research. The reason is that it's entirely fictional. But I beg you to realize how serious this is. Sony Pictures is deliberately presenting this in an almost flawless way, telling people that the best scientists in the world have actually scientifically determined that the world is going to end in 2012, and that the only way to survive and to save our families is to give them all of our family's personal information. And then when you get the confirmation email, does it tell you that, hey, this was all a big promotion? No, it gets you even deeper and deeper into it. But that's kind of how this works. Sony has the out of being able to say, oh, it was just viral promotion, we were just playing around. But this information is very good. This is probably one of the best websites I've ever seen, and there's no indication whatsoever anywhere that this is a Sony Pictures promotion for a movie. I'm telling you, this is way, way too far, and I tell you something else, that it is not in order to get you to see a movie. It is to get you to do as the trailer implores you to do, which is to find out the truth and Google 2012. And if an unsuspecting person does this, they will be met with the usual suspects who dazzle people with the certain truths that they have about how the world is nothing like they've been told, while also teaching them to open themselves up to the spirit world and encourage channeling. In the case of David Wilcock and in the case of Michael Tsarian, he tells us that the only salvation is through magic and secret rituals. This is where they want as many people as possible for a very specific reason, which is that there will in fact be a series of cataclysms coming, and there will be war and famine leading up to 2012. The true elites know this all too well, and they definitely know it's also not because of galactic alignment. So on one hand, it's kind of a misdirection to make sure we don't pay attention to the real prophecies, but on the other hand, they are trying to make it look like other prophecies are coming true, all prophecies. But in trying to fulfill all of them, they're going to have to paint with very broad strokes. And what I mean by that is that ultimately we're going to be asked to settle. That is, that there's going to be a lot of miraculous things going on, maybe even aliens and things like that, and they're going to basically say, hey, this is what all your prophecies were talking about. And even though we'll be able to say, well, this isn't exactly what our prophecies were talking about, but it's close, most people will agree that, hey, close is pretty good, maybe we didn't get the prophecies quite right, it has been an awful long time, and things like that. That's the plan. The following is what I think will happen, and keep in mind it could happen so many different ways, and I'm probably wrong about some very key elements in this, but I'll just tell you what I think will be happening. They will position a particular man to rule over this war and to rule over the chaos in the years leading up to 2012. And this man will be kind of a patsy antichrist that will embody all things New World Order. Even the very unreligious will see him as the Antichrist. He will, in my opinion, be set up for the purpose of being knocked down by the real Antichrist, who will then look like the actual return of Christ because he defeated the evil system. I think that this will happen around 2012. He will then tell us something like, all the religions kind of had it right, and they will unite the entire world with the promise of a new millennium of peace, which the Bible says is a false peace that will only last a few months before this person or being shows his true colors. But at that point it may be too late for some. They may have given this person or being access to their free will in some way. I encourage you to research things like Zeitgeist's claim about Jesus and some of the other conspiracy New Age claims about Jesus that we all think that we know, that I once believed myself. But I encourage you to find out if they're true or not. And if they aren't true, ask yourself why the entire system will concede every truth about conspiracies of the New World Order, but all trip on themselves about this one guy that lived 2,000 years ago. Ask yourself why the entire system is so afraid of this guy. The answer is out there. Thanks for your time. This presentation is about the website instituteforhumancontinuity.org, or IHC. If you have been taken in by this website and you haven't discovered its little secret yet, stay tuned and we'll get to that in a minute. But let me first say that this is probably one of the best put together websites I've ever seen from a design perspective. But before we get to the big ones, let's check out some of the finer details. The first thing that caught my attention was the IHC staff page. These faces seem to say, look everyone, 2012 is something that actual scientists are worried about, and here is a respectable crew trying to save the world. But while reading about the executive director, Dr. Edmund Primo, they show us pictures of respectable scientists with impressive resumes, which are to assure us that all this 2012 business is quite real, and we are in fact, all, scientifically speaking, doomed. I was asked by someone who had seen my video 2012 Debunked if I would look into this organization. I took up the challenge and I found some very interesting things. That there is a 94% chance that December 21st, 2012 will bring doomsday on planet Earth and for all of humanity. They say that they have several space cities and floating cities and underground cities in the works that will be ready by 2012, and they want people to give them their email addresses to enter them into a lottery for a chance to survive 2012. The site is basically telling people that they are a group of scientists and government officials and the like who have been studying the 2012 doomsday phenomena since 1978 when they set up this foundation. And in 2009 they decided to go public to offer a solution to save humanity from 2012 because they say that their scientists have determined